Do this. Hey,
Yeah.
happy Mother Loving Friday. Welcome to another episode of the Uncorked Poetry Podcast. First things first, Happy New Year. Second things, we have our very first guest of the new year. Everyone, please welcome John Hanright.
Thank
What's
you.
up,
Thank
John?
you. Thank you so much for having me and for I'm very honored that I'm the first guest of 2022. It's amazing. I've been a very big fan of the podcast for really since the beginning. So
Oh,
yeah.
thank you so much. And we're just happy to have you, man.
Yeah.
Um, Fuck yes. It's been so long since I've been able to like curse in public. This is fucking phenomenal. It's been a while. So
Well, I love cursing, so we're kindred spirits.
let it out. Yes. How was your day, John? How was your Friday going so far?
It's going well. I've been preparing and yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, John is a writer, a student, an actor, and an activist. So my first question to you is, when did you know that you were a poet? When did that happen to you?
Wow.
Or like when did you figure that out?
Huh. Nobody's ever asked me that question, and I'm used to you asking people very, unexpected questions. So I should have been prepared for this one. But um, when did I know that I was a poet? Well, I think I can answer that by way of saying that I knew that I was a writer when um, I was always writing, as a kid, I was always writing, little short stories and coming up with, very fantastical, creations in my head. And, I was always that ham as a kid. And, and a number of people in my family and teachers, said, you should really, like write this stuff down and like, really expand on it and, learn how to, write as a craft. Um, and that, that kind of planted the earworm or the bug in my ear. And then, I was in school and, I was doing various creative projects. I was doing theater. I was making short films with friends. But eventually, basically when I got into college was really when I said, okay, either I'm, going to like just pursue a general liberal arts degree and, call it that. Or I'm going to actually focus my energies toward, writing as a career. And that was hugely daunting
Yes.
because, there is no end to the amount of, tropes of, the starving artist and starving writer. And that shit, gets to you and to the point where, I was like, well, if I do writing, maybe I'll get into marketing and like, die early doing that shit.
Marketing works, let me tell you.
But I have really, come around to, the prospect of, writing professionally and being successful at it. And I'm also interested in teaching.
Nice.
So, poetry was kind of like a natural progression from that. And so, poetry has been hugely cathartic for me. It was my lifeline really when I was struggling with mental illness and I'm still struggling with mental illness. But, I was very deeply depressed at one point. And, poetry was almost like my way of writing a very extended suicide note. And I know that's like hugely dark, but
Sorry, we do dark here.
Yeah,
Sorry, keep
yeah.
going.
That was kind of my my initial reason for writing poetry was,
Mm-hmm.
well, I can, at least in this form of writing, I can get my feelings out, expel all this venom and toxic, energy inside me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do die from this illness, I can, have something where people can, look at it and say that that's probably why.
Is poetry the thing that brought you back from like the I don't know from the edges the from the cliff? Like, is poetry the thing that helped you stay focused and alive?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yes. And, it's been a way for me to express, I sometimes have trouble expressing how I feel. And that's actually what my first poem is about. I, I have, sometimes I have a problem expressing how I feel for people,
Hmm.
whether I'm in love with them, romantically or just as a friend. And I say that poetry is kind of like my love
Uh-oh.
language in that way. Oh, what's wrong?
Oh,
What's
there we
wrong?
go. Okay, that was weird.
What
Um,
happened?
Probably the storm, most likely.
Ah, did
Um,
did you lose me for a minute there?
I did lose you for a minute
Ah,
there. You were talking about coming back and what poetry has done for you.
yeah, yeah. So I sometimes have trouble expressing how I
Mhm.
feel for people, whether it's romantic or, just as friends. And so in that way, I kind of say that like poetry is kind of like my love language.
Mhm.
And so, that's kind of what my first poem is about. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Well, I mean, since you introduced it, can we hop into your first poem?
absolutely.
Great. Woohoo. Looking forward to it.
Yes. And I should also say that this poem, at least in the current draft of my poetry chapbook, will be included in it. So
Great.
it's called Three Goddamn Words. If I try to express the way that I feel when we're together, the words fail. Isn't it ironic? The poet who stumbles, mumbles, and crumbles before words. If I were an artist, I think I'd most relate to Pollock, except instead of paint, lines would dribble across the paper in a garbled mess of carefully crafted words. Of all the rhymes in the world, none are enough for me to truly say those three words, so few in number, yet so deeply felt.
Damn, that was dope. So I really like the title, Three Goddamn Words.
Yes.
Yes, I think we've all had that feeling. It's just like I just trying to say that I care about you deeply, damn it.
Yep. Yep.
Like, yeah.
It's yeah.
Um,
It's definitely about the struggle to um, express, just how you feel
mhm.
for someone.
Yeah,
It's right on the tip of your tongue, and you, but you just can't quite
just
qualify it. You
right there.
put it into words. Yeah.
Mhm. I really liked the stutter part. I thought that was
Yes.
cool. That was really fun for you to play with. The garbled mess. I really like that garbled mess was like really slow and intentional.
Yes.
Like that was really cool. And carefully crafted words. I feel like you took such care of that line. Like I really enjoyed like carefully crafted word. Like yeah, I
Well,
thought that was good.
and that's kind of, the so Pollock was an artist who was very expressionist,
Mhm.
and he's very famous for basically his what are called in a lot of uh, 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 art critic circles, as is like splatter paintings, basically.
That's
It's
rude. That's rude.
it's very rude. It's very
Yeah.
rude, and it's especially rude because if you look at recordings of him actually working,
Mhm.
you see how deliberate and how methodical he is
Mhm.
about how he spreads those thin lines of paint, and how he you know whips his brush at the canvas. And so I wanted to kind of express how I was feeling, by way of Pollock, basically, because
Mhm.
it's you you get to a point sometimes when you're very guarded
Mhm.
about how you feel for people,
Mhm.
um, and you want to make sure that when you express how you feel, that it comes out just right, and you know you're very careful with your language. um,
What do you think is like one of, not just one of, what do you think are some of the things that like hold you back from saying those three words? Like, what do you think slows you down from like just blurting out "I love you" to someone?
yeah. Well, fear of rejection is
Mhm.
huge, because I've been in many situations, where I've expressed how I've felt for another person,
Mhm.
and they've not reciprocated. And that's why the working title of my chapbook is Unrequited, because they're all poems about how, um, feelings, whether it's of a romantic nature or otherwise,
Mhm.
can be unrequited, and how you deal with that when it
Mhm.
is. So yeah, that's a huge part of it for me, is the fear that you're going to get burned again, if
Yeah.
if you're if you're honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to have a really hard time, learning how to put my own, how to put my, not just putting myself first, but allowing myself to love myself unconditionally.
Yes.
Regardless of if other people, don't share that feeling. How do
Right.
you think? How has that journey been for you? Because it's been a son of a bitch for me. But
Hmm.
how has it been for you? Just learning how to um, find that the love within and allowing that to push you forward.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a challenge, and it still is a challenge, to be honest with you. I I like myself now, and that's a huge like step from where I was even like 3 or 4 years ago, where I was very like self-indifferent, and
Ooh,
really
self
like,
indifferent.
yeah, yeah, and really just felt, like, you know I didn't hate myself anymore. I did for a very long time, and I was very repressed, especially about my sexuality. Um, but I moved past that, and I moved to a point where I wasn't in love with myself, but I didn't hate myself either. I was just very neutral to
Yeah.
my existence, really. Um, and so I've moved kind of to a point where not quite at the point where I love myself, but I do like myself at least. Yeah.
Since you brought up coming out,
Mhm.
how was that process for you? If you're comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, it was hard.
Mhm.
Of course, every coming out experience is different for any queer person. But mine, I went from basically completely denying my sexual orientation, to realizing that, like, okay, this is real. This is, something that I'm gonna have to deal with, but I can put it off, and I don't have to, tell anyone about it. I don't have to, you know, broadcast it, in any way. To basically falling in love with someone for the first time, and having that reciprocated also for the first time.
Yeah.
um and then, I won't get into the circumstances of it, but being outed. um
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
rude. Don't fucking do that.
yeah, not to my friends, mind you, but to my parents specifically. Yeah.
Ooh.
And that actually hurt more,
Hmm.
to be perfectly frank.
Word. Like you
Yeah,
don't go around outing people. Mind your
yeah,
business.
yeah,
Mind your business.
yeah. And because, like, you can get new friends, right? If friends don't accept you, fuck them. Like, life's too short.
Yeah.
But you can't, at least from my perspective growing up, you can't really just disown, or completely uh, forget your family, or your parents,
Yeah.
in particular. And when you do, it's very traumatizing.
Mhm.
um, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to be, the person who, had to basically leave their house and disconnect from their parents. I just really, I would rather die, to be honest with you. And so that prospect of, basically being faced with my parents potentially not accepting me
Mhm.
was mortifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Are things a little better?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Leaps
Oh
and
my god. Okay, good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, this, yeah. I wouldn't be smiling right now, or really even probably alive, to be completely honest with you,
Wow.
if my relationship with my parents didn't improve at all.
Mhm.
And if I was, in a position where I would need to basically disconnect from them.
Yes.
No, my parents are much more accepting than they were initially, and very supportive. So yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's much better.
That's that's great to hear. That's great
Yes.
to hear. Listen, just all the people aren't who are adverse to gay life, LGBTQIA, mind your business.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Just mind your business. Keep it moving. Like we're
Yeah.
not looking for your approval. Most of the time, we just want to be left the fuck alone.
Mm-hmm.
So let's all do that. All right. Don't
Yes.
worry about what people do in their personal business unless they're part of your personal life. And even then, mind your business.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thinking of that, can we go into your next poem and then I have a question for you?
Sure. Sure.
Okay. Great.
Um, this is a complete divergence from what we've been talking about. I mean,
Okay.
not completely, but it has more to do with my politics, which have changed considerably since my youth, uh, or my early youth, I should say. And I wrote this one, on May Day, actually, which is also known as International Workers' Day. And it's for all of my fellow travelers. It's called Red Heart.
Ah.
Why? Why do you, with a downturn grin, sit sad and sedentary? Comrades, we have a world to win. You were born a revolutionary. Our lives are knit up with each other like a warm scarf to keep out cold. We can't afford not to think of a mother whose child is taken from her before the newborn is 3 years old. Current material conditions sustain this nation whose answer to health care is sacrifice and ration. We say no. We refuse to maintain any system that opposes our liberation. The president and his cronies, too, have sent us up a creek without a paddle, or hell, even the damn canoe. What answers the opposition? Hear them speak. We just don't have the money for the demands you seek. If money overrides a livable planet, if money means comfort for few and poverty for many, if money is an idol carved into granite, if money makes lives into dollars and pennies, if money traffics in terrorist attacks, if money leads us to societal inanity, if money prevents a billionaire's tax, if money upholds modern day slavery, how could we live with such blood on our hands? Why would we ever consent to such bloodless demands? Let the state go bankrupt. See if we care. At least it would prevent corporate welfare. If money can ordain ill-gotten gain, it can also be used for our pleasure instead of our pain. So join the international proletariat. We always have room in the union. Our authority comes neither from law nor fiat, but from the just power of labor working in unison. Freedom means nothing while some are oppressed. Do you feel the urge to do your part? Do you feel the blood stirring inside your chest? Comrade, that's the beating of your red heart.
That's cool. That's cool. So Red Heart, I like that. You started with Downturn Grin.
Yes.
I thought that was fun. I thought
Yeah.
that was really fun.
I was thinking, what is a frown but an downturn grin?
Yeah.
It's like the theater, it's the comedy and tragedy faces.
Yeah, it was like fun imagery, like
Yes.
Downturn Grin. Yeah. Comrade. Listen, I would like to start calling everyone comrade. Let's do that.
Yes.
I like that shit. Comrade.
Yes. I love it. I love it
so much.
Yes.
Healthcare, sacrifice, and ration.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. Up creek without a paddle. Yeah. That's pretty bad. That's pretty fucking
and
bad.
not even without a paddle, but we're literally drowning in the river. We don't even have a boat.
Not even a canoe.
Yeah.
I would never get in a canoe.
Honestly, neither would I.
Not ever. I really like the line "comfort for few poverty for many. Like if money is comfort for few, poverty for
Mm-hmm.
many. I thought that was like a not. I mean, it's not fun because poverty is not fun.
Right.
Trust me, but um, just that visualization. I thought that was fun.
Yes.
I really like the if monies that you went through. I thought that was really great. And I really like that you ended with how can we live with such blood on our hands? You got to that line, I was just like, blood on our hands. Money, money is blood on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
So the religion, the international proletarians, what is that?
So the proletariat is basically the workers of the world. Basically, it's a French word, but it basically boils down to workers of the world unite.
Gotcha.
And it's been a banner and a call for socialists and people on the left since time immemorial. So
Mhm. Dope. I thought that was dope.
yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, when did you write that?
So I initially wrote that in 2020,
Okay.
while Trump was still in office. So that's why that
I got
line,
that feeling. Yeah.
the president and his cronies too. But it's not meant to be any particular president, because really, as people have said, Trump is the symptom, not the cause.
That
Uh,
is for sure.
you
He's
know,
causing a lot of shit though. Like,
Oh yeah. Oh, no doubt. Yeah. But we've had presidents who were, completely abysmal and morally bankrupt. The first one to come to mind is Andrew Jackson and the Trail of Tears. I mean, it goes back a
so
long
many presidents.
time.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I wanted to ask you. So, what does it mean to be a revolutionary power of art to you? What
Yes.
does that mean to you?
So the revolutionary power of art means to me that, so art has historically been the privilege of, basically the upper crust. And really not until like the 50s and the 60s with the beats, the beatniks, did art and especially writing start to reflect and start to appeal to working people, people of color, basically a different demographic than it historically has.
I have to push
Yeah.
back on that a little bit.
Well, okay.
I think writing and art has um, been made by those who feel like the world wasn't listening to them. And I feel like that's been a trend throughout history. Sometimes it becomes popular, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you find your little niche,
Right.
sometimes you don't. But I think um, art has been the the thing that those who don't really fit in to places find a place within.
Yes.
I think that's been an ongoing theme since art has been art.
Yes. And I completely agree with that.
Mhm.
It definitely has been a refuge for people who have been marginalized, people who have been oppressed,
Mhm.
since, yeah, for a very long time.
Mhm.
But I think what I meant was that politically speaking, in
Mhm.
terms of like transformative art and like, art that's meant to be political,
Mhm.
um, you know, first wave feminism and second wave feminism really like, uh,
Mm.
uh, taught people that like art can be a more so second wave feminism than first wave feminism. But
Yeah, the first one was pretty much just white women being like,
yeah,
"Hey,
yes,
fuck
yeah.
everybody else."
Yes. But like second wave feminism really taught people that like the personal is the political, and we can use art as a vehicle for social change.
Have to,
Um,
have
yes.
to.
And so I suppose that's kind of what I mean by the revolutionary power of art, because you know, like I think of like the AIDS quilt, that was art. Or
Yeah,
I
I
think
remember that.
yeah, I think of like, you know, the banners that people, you know, act up, you know, made to really like put it in people's faces that like
Mhm.
we're dying here and you're ignoring us.
Yeah, for a
Um,
very long time.
yeah.
Very long time.
And so, you know, I really, I really think that art has fundamental transformative power.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Art has saved so many people,
Yes.
so many people. And, you know, the power of art, I think you're right. The power of art is just unmatchable. You know, I mean, you can't really fight against an idea,
Right.
you know? I think that's the beauty of a lot of art.
Who was
Like
it
you
who
can,
said, I can't recall exactly the full quote, but I think it ended by saying, you can't fight against an idea whose time has come.
yeah. It's just, it just is, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Either ride the wave or, you know, get swallowed up by it. There
Exactly.
is no in between.
Yes.
Change is coming. Change is coming.
Indeed.
Um, so I have an awkward question for you. I ask all my guests this question, and
Okay.
none of them
I'm
love
ready.
it. So, what parts of your talent are you most impressed by? No one likes that question.
Mm. Yeah, I kind of hate that.
I know most people do.
um,
It
no,
puts you
no,
in a very awkward position.
in all seriousness, no.
Mhm.
I I love that I have such an attention to detail. And by that, I mean that I don't leave really any stone unturned when writing.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I think I'm very, you know, going back to my first poem, I'm very careful with the words that I use because I know that words do have power,
Yeah.
and can be helpful, but also can wound. Um, and so, you know, that's been something that I've always been mindful of, and I really um, am very detailed oriented in most things that I do, but in particular with my writing, which, you know, kind of explains why I'm not maybe as prolific as some of my, you know, writer friends are, because, you know, I just I get very sometimes bogged down, to be honest with you, in the details of things.
Mhm.
And not to say that other writers don't, but um, it can be a good thing, but it can also kind of be a curse, in some regards. Um, I also really like um, my use of metaphor and wordplay. Um, Although Neil, if he's watching, you know, has been very helpful in helping me to extend my metaphors maybe a little bit further than I usually do.
Mhm.
You know, I sometimes tend to just use a metaphor or throw it out and then not come back to it.
Mhm.
um, but when I use a metaphor or, you know, use wordplay in some way, it it again is very deliberate, and is the result. It reminds me of it reminds me of an Oscar Wilde quote, actually. In the morning, I worked on one of my poems all morning, and I took out a comma. In the afternoon, I put it back again.
Yeah, been there. You're just like, no, it sounds fine. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Yeah, yeah. I know that feeling. You're just like, okay, I'm gonna work on this for 15 minutes.
Yes.
That's it. I have to give myself like time limits. Otherwise, I will, like you, like obsess over things. I have to be like,
Yes.
okay, this is the amount of time I'm allowing myself to work on this thing. And then you have to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the complete opposite. I'm a lot ADD, so I do
Mm.
like I'll go like wash the dishes, and then like I'll notice that there's something on the floor, so I go pick that up, and then I notice that like I need to take the garbage out, so I go take the garbage out, and then I notice that like my pants are dirty. Oh, you know what else is dirty? All the laundry upstairs, so I go get the laundry, and like just I had to tell myself just one thing at a time. Okay,
Yes.
you do
Yes.
one thing at a time. Have you ever found yourself like hopping from thing to thing and forcing yourself to pay attention? And how do you navigate through those moments?
Oh yeah, I definitely I have struggled with wanting to move from one thing to another,
Mhm.
especially if, like often I'll get distracted because I want to have something come off well and phrase something well, um, and so or I'll do research about it, and I'll
Mhm.
get like very immersed in that, and not really always recognize that, like, okay, I've strayed on a tangent here, and I'm no longer working on the thing that I was working on,
No.
an hour ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I also more so struggle with hyperfixation, and really perfectionism,
Mhm.
and again, coming back to the detailed oriented, I'll get into the nitty gritty of most anything that I'm doing, and
Mhm.
it really sometimes detracts from my progress, you know, uh, and yeah, various other parts of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I get it. Hello, fellow ADHD person.
Well, yeah, and it isn't because I'm not diagnosed with ADHD. I've gotten two tests that have come
Really.
back negative,
Hmm.
and it's inexplicable to me because I have many symptoms that are congruous with an ADHD diagnosis, but
Yeah.
um, I yeah, I just kind of have resigned myself to say that I have hyperfixation tendencies, and I
Mhm.
have I can be very distractible. Um,
You
and
gotta you gotta go to the doc. Like, listen, doc, just give me the diagnosis. That's why I'm here. Stop playing with me.
I
Doctors
haven't,
love
damn
it when
it.
you call him doc. Like, listen, doc, I came here for one thing. All right. You gotta get a yeah behind it. Listen, doc, yeah. I came here for one thing and one thing only. I want my damn diagnosis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. See? um, who have been some of your biggest influences when it comes to writing or poetry?
Very good question. Um, and it's a question that I think a lot of writers get asked all the time, and not just writers, but
Mhm.
artists of any stripe. Um, but I tell people, I'm very eclectic,
Mhm.
but I do consider myself kind of, at some points, in my writing at least, kind of a neo-romantic, and by that I mean the capital R romantic, and that's
What's the difference between capital R and lowercase r romantic?
so the lowercase r has kind of been subsumed into um, associations with like romantic love and affection and sentimentalism and things like that,
Hmm.
and capital R romanticism as a literary genre, and as an artistic movement, definitely had that, in spades. But it was more focused with like it had very strong influences from German Gothic literature. And so a lot of romantic poets like Shelley and Lord Byron, all these very, well-known, established white European dead poets, basically, are
That's what we're taught.
associated with the movement. And but I've really that's a kind of comfort zone for me. I've returned to that sort of literature and art time and time again when I've needed to have a, I guess, a refresher. And part of it is just my education, that was something that I focused on during my undergraduate work. But it is a point of comfort for me. I also really like aestheticism. Anyone who knows me knows that I quote Oscar Wilde on the regular. He was the original dandy. And so I really, have found a niche in that area as well. So Oscar Wilde, Baudelaire, yeah, a lot of that literature as well, and art has influenced me. But as a point of, going back to kind of the revolutionary potential of art, I'm less interested in kind of painting a rosy picture of reality, and more interested in my own writing. I mean, in like social realism, which I know is like a huge divergence from it's basically the exact opposite of romanticism and aestheticism. And so, a lot of theater, that's been produced that has a social realistic theme has been influential to me. And so, I do take bits and pieces from various artistic movements and genres. So that's a very long answer to your very basic question.
Oscar Wilde, I got it.
Yes.
Can we go into another poem?
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
This is actually the last one that I have prepared.
Okay.
And it is, if I do say so myself, a bit of a doozy.
Okay. I like doozies.
Yeah, it's not it's a poem to provoke thought,
Okay.
and also a visceral emotional reaction. And it was, the inspiration for it was, I visited the South really for the first time a few years back, aside from going to like Disneyland and things, which isn't really visiting.
You went to Disneyland?
Or Disney World or whatever.
You went to Disney World?
Yeah. I mean, I went to Florida for basically only that reason. So it's not really visiting the South per se.
You couldn't call me, like?
Oh no, not recently.
Oh.
Yeah. When I was like a teen. Yeah.
Okay. Because I want to go to Disney World for churros. Yeah.
For churros?
Yeah. Or like I could just, find a friend who I could just churros.
Okay. I mean, I'd be down, and I know many people who are Disney fans. So Yes. So I was visiting the South, and I was also interested in the then very contentious, but still relatively contentious debate around Confederate monuments and
Oh Lord.
whether to keep them up or tear them down and stomp on their old racist dead asses.
I know how
Um,
I feel about that shit.
yes, and me too. And so this poem kind of reflects that.
Nice. Okay, let's do it.
A northerner in the South. Oh, southern live oak, with each strong arm, with all your storied quaintness, you stand as a monument to harm, to horrors countless. Your limbs are knotted with age, yet you are a persistent plight. Your arching stature like a cage in which a bird sings out of spite. Whose jeering voices so assault the senses? For whom do the ghosts shriek? Why do you flay your fronds to and fro? Of what unheard of offenses would you speak? Where are your secrets stowed? O Yaupon holly, your blossoms burst through winter's chill. But how did your berries get such a dark red hue? Like blood, one taste of your fruit soon makes one ill. To take your lofty place, what did you do? How many scores of the switch made from your boughs? How many bodies bloody? How many burning tears fell? The sweat of a slave's brow remains in your roots, you see. A harrowing heritage born of a rebel yell. Oh, Chickasaw plum, your germs yield succulent fruits, and your branches bear a fragrant flower, but your brambles are full of thorny shoots which stab, wound, and overpower. What bitter burdens hang upon your limbs? What strange fruit dangles? Where are the dirges and hymns? What of the bodies so mangled? What the survivors sour with scorn? Where is the martyr's crown of thorns? O old South, here lie your landmarks. Here stand your statues. Here just history harks to hear the rhythm and blues. Your hatred has defiled a palmetto's pleasure. Your sunken soul soiled a magnolia's magic. and your crimes beyond measure cut us to the quick.
Word. That was called the A Southerner in the
A
South.
northerner in the
A
South.
Northerner in the South. I'm sorry. Did you start with Oh Southern? Was it Live Folk or
Oh, Southern Live Oak. Yes.
Live Oak? Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I must have not enunciated that well.
No, that's absolutely fine. I like Stand as a Monument to Harm. I don't know why, but that really like stood out. Like it stood out to me. Stand as a monument to harm. Like I feel like there's a lot of like symbolism in that line. That was really cool. Um, Limbs nodded to age.
Nodded with age, but yes.
Nodded with age. Sorry.
Yes.
So arching statue like a cage. Was that a Maya Angelou?
It was indeed.
I love her so much. She's so amazing.
Another one of my influences.
Just phenomenal. Genius. Harrowing heritage. First of all, that is a fucking hard thing to say.
Yeah. And that was actually a last minute change. It was actually a different word than before, but yes.
That is I was saying it in my head. I was like, harrowing heritage. Shit. That's hard.
Yes.
I thought that was cool. Strange fruit. I mean, you can't have, this kind of poem without a reference to strange fruit. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was great. Survivors sour with scorn. First of all, alliterations just make me happy on the inside. And this one
Love
was
alliterations.
Right? We don't have enough of them. We just don't. No.
Well, advertising does it very poorly.
Yeah, they don't do it.
They don't count.
Sunken soul soiled. That's another thing I said in my head a few times. I was like, wait, sunken soul soiled. Word. The symbolism of that line I thought was really dope. Like just thinking about like a sunken soil, I say the word again, like a sunken soul. It's not just sunken; it's also soiled.
Yes.
Like that's a lot of heavy shit on one soul. So I thought the symbolism of that was great. Yeah, are you gonna put that in your book? Is that one going?
So it will be going in a book. I will say that, but I don't know that because the current chapbook is thematically kind of only about kind of unrequited feelings and very it's more, it's not explicitly just a romantic book, but it is very tinged toward romantic love and expressions of such. So thematically I don't know that it would
make it. Yeah
I feel but for sure it will be going in a book. And actually I'm planning on submitting it to a couple of different journals and hopefully at least one of them will will accept it.
Yes. So last question before we get out of here. First of all, thank you again for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Why do you write? What is the force behind you putting pen or pencil to paper or typing it up? Why do you write?
Well, if you had asked me that question, as I said, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have said to process grief and to kind of process my emotions, and to an extent that is still true. But if you ask me now, which you are, because we are talking now, I would say just for the sake of it, for art's sake. As I said, I've been very influenced by the doctrine of aestheticism, which was and is art for art's sake. no other real reason than that, aside from perhaps the real revolutionary power of it, and the transformative power of it, and not even necessarily in publishing, because I've not had much published yet, but the transformative power of it also in just putting it on the page, or putting it on any media that you're working with. Creativity it has value in and of itself. And so, and you can influence people, even if you haven't had any work formally published. So yeah, those would be kind of the main reasons why I write. Yeah.
Oh. All right, guys. You can follow John Hanright on all of his socials. Could you give people your socials and where they can find you?
I have a Facebook, and it's just John Hanright. It's my personal Facebook. I will be at some point soon creating an author page, and that will probably also be John Hanright. But as of right now, basically Facebook is my primary social media. Yes.
I feel you. All right, folks. Make sure you support all of his upcoming adventures, all of his upcoming work, because it is hard to be a poet. Okay, we do not get paid a lot of money, so please support,
if any at all.
If any at all. We have to love it. It's the only way we can continue to do it. So please support local poets. Yeah, that's it for us this week. Thank you again, John, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Same. Absolutely same. All right, guys. Remember, hurt people. So keep an eye on your pain. Stay safe. Godspeed. And we might see you next week. We'll talk all about it on the page. Make sure you check out the Uncorked Poetry Podcast Facebook page for further updates. All right, guys. Have a wonderful week. Oh my God. Be safe.